here. In 2015, it grew to 8.83 trillion in 2019, and then 21.83 trillion in 2023. We are currently at about 54 trillion naira, the size of the economy. How realistic is that dream and ambition to get to 500 trillion, in no distant time?
Hard work, consistency, diligence, passion. I mean, I'm happy you reeled these figures out. Part of what you reeled out, I first said it. When I said that Nigeria would have a budget of 9 trillion, people said, I was talking rubbish. I said, it will come to 20-something. It came. Then I said 100 trillion. Zach, the chair of FIRS, said, we can do it. So now it's 50-something. I don't see why it cannot reach 100 trillion easily. And why I say it's possible is when I look around at the natural resources this country has, it's mostly lying idle. I remember discussing, no, I didn't discuss, I wrote a letter to the then Minister of Finance, pointing out that there's an entity called MOFI, Ministry of Finance Incorporated, and there's also another one called Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated. These two bodies hold all of Nigeria's assets. And I was shocked to see that Nigerian Railways, in spite of all its assets around Nigeria, was valued at 20 million naira. The valuation was done in 1974. So he told me, well, people ask, so are you an economist? I say, no, I'm a legal policy analyst. But legal policy drives the economy. If you don't have legal policy, no matter what you put into the economy, it won't work. So I don't know whether my letter helped to push life into MOFI, but now it's an incorporated entity, no longer in the Ministry of Finance. Now, can we identify 10, 20, 30 wasting assets and sweat them? I can give you one. Do you know that there are about 15,000 abandoned federal government projects worth about 300 trillion, abandoned since the 60s? Ajakuta is one. Iwobi is another one. Why don't you just sell them? I mean, what is government doing all day? Every day they are working and calculating. Just call people. All the airports in the UK are owned by private people. So again, this disruptive thing means the government has to say, take a policy, we are no longer in business.
But when a lot of people look at how the power sector was treated, taking it out of the distribution aspect of it, taking it out of the control of the government to private entities, and how it has turned out so far, a lot of people may not agree with that being a remedy because, I mean, everybody has a thing or two to say about how poorly power distribution had been in Nigeria. Do you think that if government goes ahead to extend that approach to other areas, anything different will happen?
How transparent was it? So my point is in disruptive development economics, all the chains must be transparent. Was the disco sale, was it transparent? It wasn't. If we had given it to people who had the skills and the knowledge, oh, this guy, he understands the business, then you would have seen results. But the thing was sold to politically. That's why it failed. It was given, if it was given to the right people, they would do the right thing. Nigeria should not have a problem. After all, the late Abakari isn't known for being strong on the power sector. But he led the Nigerian team to Germany. And I don't know what has come of that discussion with Siemens. So all of the monies that went there, where is it? The NIPP project launched by OBJ, the National Integrated Power Project for the Niger Delta, where is it? So what I'm saying is that there are a couple of key indicators that legal policy analysts identify, which if put together can push the country. Number one, constitution. This pyramid has to go. You've got to have centers of power in the regions. You've got to take a decision that the states are not viable. Let's stop this pretense. You've got to say, look, they're not viable. And that discussion must be led by the president. He will call all the governors and say, you're not viable. All you do is come to Abuja and collect money. That can't continue.
I would like you to look at this very critically now.
Yeah.
That the states are not viable, and knowing the system we have, it still has to be addressed through the Constitution.
Yes.
And knowing the approach of our politicians who are in positions of making the law, is it a realistic dream to think that we will come to a point where the lawmakers will sit down in one room and say, states are not viable, let's scrap it?
Don't we have a president?
We have a president.
Executive power resides in the president by virtue of Section 5. One of my greatest idols of all time, Professor Nwabeze, and I said it to President Tinubu, you are the chief executive officer of Nigeria, and by virtue of Section 5, your powers are enormous. Can you exercise it? Nwabeze came up with a fantastic theory. The 1963 Constitution was changed in one day, because the Constitution, people don't know, is actually a schedule. There are only 2 sections in the Nigerian, either 2 or 3. So what Nwabeze said is, do what happened, do what you did in 1963. You just detached the Independence Constitution and you put the Republican Constitution. Right now, the National Assembly is not very well known to have 3 functions. It is the House of Assembly of the FCT, it is the House of Assembly of the federal government, it is the House of Assembly of the government of Nigeria. And under Section 4 of the Constitution, it has special powers. So Nwabeze's theory is that they can use those special powers, ignore the states, and pass a new constitution. Whether that will work or not, everything about disruption requires trial. I don't pretend it to be easy, but try it. Do you know that Tinubu did something that I found very, very instructive? He decapitated the states on control of funds to the local governments. I went to court 15 years ago on the point. I won, but the judge said he would not give me the declaration because to do so would mean that what I intended to achieve would bring suffering to the people. But Tinubu went there. Why did the governors not challenge him? He went and put his... Look, a strong resolve is always important. He might have failed, but he succeeded. So he's cracked that, and the local governments are now financially autonomous. But it must continue. You must see whether it is possible to create 8 geopolitical, constitutionally recognized regions in Nigeria, all of them independently acting. And those things that the federal government cannot do well, for instance, if I ask you, how many prisoners does the federal government have? Should I answer myself?
You are the lawyer.
1, Nnamdi Kanu. Yet the federal government spends between 8 and 10 billion every year to maintain prisons, whereas it's a matter of the state. If, for instance, Governor Sanwo-Olu had financial pressure to maintain, he has the largest number of prisoners in Nigeria. Are you sure? He will tell his attorney, why am I paying all this? He said, oh God, because the prisoners are staying too long. Okay, why are they staying too long? You see, rule of law, speed of justice. Some people stay in prison 15 years because there's a disconnect. The federal government spends money on what it's not supposed to spend for the state, and the state doesn't feel responsible. So these are the little things that if you begin to work on, you will see results. 15 trillion here, 20 trillion. Look at the Secretariat. I was the lawyer to try to sell it in 2010 for, I don't know, I think at that time it was 200 billion. It's been lying waste. It's been lying waste for 40 years. Fling it for, say, 400 billion. It will give about 10 to 15 first-class hospitals. So when I say 500 trillion, it looks like it's too unachievable. But it's not. Those are targets. And you need somebody with energy to push it.
Okay, I would have loved us to look at what made you to come to that conclusion, perhaps for the interest of the viewer, to understand why you say the states are not working. Because that's an argument that many people